I don't see the.
Well, my name's Jeff Cockrell. I'm with the Monroe County Legal Department. I'm here to act more as like a moderator this morning. We've got a set of questions that we're planning on if time permitting, we get through with everyone. We do realize we're starting this one a little late, so don't worry about your time. This is a big enough decision for us that we will allow a little bit extra time in order to make sure we make the right choice. We are recording this, but we are not live streaming it so that the public can watch it later. I would remind the public that we are doing interviews for a construction manager. The construction manager is not responsible for choosing the site or the number of beds in the facility, but they are to, once we make those decisions, work with the architect and the county representatives to make sure that the building itself goes as efficiently and as smoothly as possible with the best price possible. And that's kind of the roles that we're talking about here. I will introduce the people here that are from the county. Again, Jeff Cockrell. I'm not going to score this, but I'm here to act as a moderator. On the end, we have David Gardner, who has a contractual relationship with it. He's with ASI, who does the maintenance of our current justice facilities. He is also here as kind of as to help the Richard and Corey with questions and things like that. Richard Kreider is our fleet and building director. He is one of the two scorers today, and Corey Grass is our transitional team director, and he's with the sheriff. He works with the sheriff's department, and those are the two who are going to do the scoring for this RFP. You have any questions on roles or anything like that? If not, you guys can go ahead and get going. I would ask that the way I think all these are going to run is everybody's going to give, hey, here's my section of what I'm going to provide. One question that we have that's kind of ubiquitous to us all is, how is the communications going to flow between whatever aspect, whether it's pre-construction, construction, how that information is going to flow to both our design team and the county. So if you have that, please incorporate that in your comments so we can just ask the question once and not 4 times.
Thank you, Jeff. Dan King, I'm the president of the Skillman Corporation. I have with me from my left to right, Dale Flick, who's our site manager for the project, Ryan Panic, who's our senior project manager, and David Yancey, who will be our local contractor and XBE coordinator for the project. We also have in the audience Natalie O'Hara, who is our director of business development. So I first want to say thank you for the opportunity to present to you today and having submitted our proposal. We're very excited about this project. We've been tracking it for quite some time and have been interested in working with Monroe County along with DLZ in this exciting project that's going to be transformative for the community. Some of the goals of the presentation today are, one, I want to highlight how Skillman does business and how transparency through our entire process drives what we do in the work that we do for our public clients, for our stakeholders, and for our communities. I also want to introduce further and explain the roles of our team that are local and experienced in CM agency projects throughout the state of Indiana. And then I want to outline our plan to leverage our industry partnerships as well as our contractor community to flatten the curve, if you will, of the rising jail costs that we've seen over the last 4 years, and our strategy on how we're going to work with DLZ and the owner team to kind of mitigate some of those cost escalation and inflation that we've seen rapidly increase over the last few years. And then finally, I want to demonstrate to Monroe County and this community our long-term commitment to make sure not only this project, but your program overall makes a lasting impression on the county of Monroe. Just a little bit more about the Skillman Corporation. We are a dedicated construction management firm. We don't self-perform. We do that for a purpose, that we don't have to compete with our contractor community for work that they don't feel like they don't want to bid our projects because we have a competing faction within our house. We do solely construction management. That allows us to be undivided attention towards the owner and the owner's goals. We have the owner's interests fully at heart, and we don't waver from that. And we've done it for over 52 years. So we've been in Indiana, we've done public construction. The numbers speak for themselves. Over 900 public projects, over 130 municipal projects. And that has allowed us to do a couple of unique things. One, last year we announced that we're going to be 100% employee owned. So that has taken place, and we've received 12 years in a row the best places to work in Indiana. And one of the statistics that we're probably most proud of is 90% of our business, 90% of our work comes from repeat clients. That is not only because we start projects well, but probably most importantly, we finish projects well, because that's the lasting taste an owner has in his mouth as we wrap up a project, is how did that project close out? How did move-in go? And what were any of the complications associated with that? Again, the numbers speak for themselves. We've performed over 680 agency as a construction manager estimates across the state. Our projects are mostly all unique projects. These are unique estimates. I will get into further in the process here how we go about that and what sets us apart from our competitors. But what that culminates into is over 340 public CMA bid events. We know the construction industry. We know the temperature of the contractors. We go out to bid more than any CM in the state of Indiana, and it represents about $12.7 billion of construction costs over the last 5 years. So how does this expertise benefit Monroe County? What are we bringing to the table that will allow Monroe County to be successful in their program? I'm not just talking about a project here, and that's why we call it program management. You have the opportunity to make a lasting difference in Monroe County by doing a new jail and a justice facility. That's going to take measured, guided approach to how we're going to best use those tax dollars. And that's what Skillman does best. We work on more public programs that involve different financing components, different stakeholders, extended bonds, managing cash flow for our owners, things that other CMs don't typically do. We put together that program so that there is a success for the long term. Again, transparency. We will have open and candid communication, not only with the owner, but with our design partner in DLZ and the contractors throughout the design and construction process. I'll elaborate on that a little bit. Everything we do with a layer of professionalism. We want to be your extended voice in the community. We want to be able to have conversations with your stakeholders. They're important people that are going to be making these decisions, and we want to be the face of Monroe County that you're proud of, and that you can put us in front of the commissioners or put us in front of council members and be proud that this is a CM that you selected. Finally, competitiveness. Competitiveness is going to drive the success of this project. I applaud the Monroe County for choosing CM agency as its delivery model, because I think it's the most transparent, but most importantly, I think it drives the most competitiveness out of the contractors, which drives value for what you're going to have as a final program in a project. And then quality and safety. Dale will talk to you later about how important quality of the workmanship that is done in the field and how critical safety is to him day in and day out as boots on the ground, making sure that this project is delivered successfully. Finally, as I stated earlier, is you can do 99% of a project well. If you don't finish that last percent, it's going to leave a bad taste in the owner's mouth. So we are going to be proactive project completion, commissioning, training, and initiatives that ensure the county is ready for move-in, because guess what? when you move into a jail or you move into a justice facility with courthouses, you got one chance to do it right. There's no real opportunity for going back and doing rework and moving folks around and doing that. That's not what you bought. It's not what you bargained for. You want completeness so that your folks are ready to move in. So a little bit more about program management. This is not a transaction for Skillman. Skillman's not looking to come in, do your project and leave. What we do is more critical, and have worked with DLZ on these approaches, is how do we put together a program that everybody's confident and will believe in terms of budget management. You know, I assume, you know, whether it's the jail or whether it's jail and the justice facilities, there may be multiple bond issuances. When and how do you sell those bonds? Who's performing a cash flow analysis, taking the construction costs and showing you how those costs are going to be incurred on a month-to-month basis over the course of 2, maybe 3 years of construction, so that Jeff and his team can make good financial decisions on when bonds are issued and sold, maximizing their investment, minimizing their interest rate costs, doing those things as being good stewards of taxpayer money. The other part of the program is community engagement. You know, who's going to be the person that provides accurate, concise information to the community so that they're fully supportive of this project throughout the course of construction, that can answer the questions and develop the relationships within the community so that when challenges or questions are made about what is being done, they can be answered very quickly. Again, I'll show you some statistics, but local contractor engagement, local workforce development are keys to what we do. And I'll show you how we've had successes in those two areas. And then finally, we want to maximize XBE participation. That's going to be a challenge, but based on our relationships in Central Indiana market, we can attract people to come down and work on these projects, put bid packages together that make economic sense, but also attract different XBE and maybe even some smaller local contractors to participate in the bidding process, giving them a chance to grow and grow in this community. Again, transparency underlines everything that we do. And I will tell you, having worked with multiple stakeholders in different environments, when you're dealing with government officials, council members, commissioners, and sheriff and his staff, potentially judges and their staff, what is the thing that's going to drive the legitimacy of the construction team, the design team, the owner team, is that level of transparency among those stakeholders. We'll do the open book budgeting and estimating and accounting of project hard and soft costs so that proper cash flow can be maintained, and that there's a certain level of comfort on how your tax dollars are being spent. We'll do frequent reporting. We can do board reports. We can do commissioner reports. We can get up and present to the board and the commissioners and the stakeholders and the public about the status of the project. And that is a part of the services that we provide. That is inclusive of what we do, because it's so important for the success of the project. And then finally, we owe it to the contractors to be clear with the expectations of the owner, the designer, and our own expectations. And we set those forth very clearly in our bid documents so that every contractor knows what they're getting into, knows what the expectations are, knows that they have to bring a level of professionalism to your project. So how we go about that is we work very hard early on to develop a team mentality. That's a team of Monroe County, DLZ, and Skillman. Skillman will act as that single point of responsibility. I'll get into the individual roles of us and how we do that, but Skillman will be that single point of responsibility. Create that collaborative process early on is the key. The earlier that we can have those collaborative, open dialogue with DLZ and the owners, the better decisions can be made, because we're going to give you the facts on costs, schedule, timing, constructability. We're going to give those facts to the stakeholders so that they can make decisions on how they prioritize certain parts of this project. It's going to be hard. No lie to it. There are going to be people that want certain things and prioritize those. There are going to be others that want different things and prioritize those. The way we navigate that with our clients is by looking at what the facts are, laying it out for our clients. What are the additional costs for doing this? What are the savings by not doing that? Where can we direct funds to increase program availability? How do we spend less here and do more focus on mental health or diversion, intake? What are some of the things that are more progressive that we want to do? But how do we save money in order to save money for those endeavors? The goal here is to maximize value to Monroe County. And we say it, if we said it once, we've said it 10 times. If any of these stakeholders, Monroe County, Skillman, DLZ, if any of us fail, the team fails. And so we're here to make everybody successful. That's our goal. We want DLZ to be as successful as possible. We want the owner to be successful, and we have to be successful in order to drive this project. And of course, we want to exceed what the expectations are of the owner and the community. Just to touch base on a few of our projects, we have done work with DLZ. The Stark County Justice Center was one of our projects, as well as Marquette Park up north. But one that I'm particularly proud of, and one that is probably the most reflective of our ability to work with DLZ and have that open communicative dialogue, is Porter County Jail. That's a jail that we originally built, but are now at the 2021 year mark, where it needs some significant renovation, some updating. And so we're working with DLZ, doing exactly what I'm talking about. Is what does the program look like? You know, how much funding does Porter County have to renovate? Breaking that program down so that they can understand when and how they're going to finance it over time. Starting with some smaller renovations on roofing, windows, things that need to be done. Then working through more of the correctional side of things as funds free up for the county. But that clear and concise communication between us and DLZ has certainly been appreciated by Porter County. Sometimes we say these things, and I just put this up there because you don't have to just hear from me. Feel free to reach out to Barb Regnitz. She's a commissioner up there. I think she's been very vocal and appreciative of all of the work that DLZ has done up there, and the ability for DLZ and Skillman to team together and work well together and manage the process for Porter County. So this is just an org chart of how we structure our project team. I'll talk a little bit, but I'll be your main point of contact. One thing I think that really differentiates Skillman from some of its competitors are, I will stay involved from today, hopefully the time that we're hired as the CM, through all the way to closeout. I'm not going anywhere. I stay involved directly in our projects, acting as the account executive, will be the person where the buck stops. If you have any questions, concerns, issues, I'll be at meetings. I will work with our team, but I am your number one primary contact for everything about your project. Working with me and who you have here are Ryan Panic and Dale Flick. Jake Sandberg will be our second individual that will be on site. He has the assistant project manager, but he will be on site with Dale. We split those roles. I'll show you a little bit later, but that will be our construction team. We have a pre-construction team led by Andrew Hulse and Phil Cummins and Brandon Simmons. As I mentioned early, David will be our XBE outreach and engagement of the workforce development, and he'll speak to that later today. And then in the back of the house, we'll have Pat Porteous, who leads our safety, QA, and QC, or Dalton, who will become very familiar with your accounting folks and all the folks that manage your money. She'll be the primary contact for that. And then Connie Patton will be our project admin. Something that I think also makes us a little bit unique is that we are 100% employee owned. So every single person you meet at Skillman has a vested interest in the success of Skillman, which only happens when there's a successful project for Monroe County. So each of these individuals that are before you are employee owners and have a vested interest in the success of your project, because that's our business. Our business is our reputation. And if we can't complete and finish out a project for Monroe County, that's going to harm our reputation, and these guys know it. And so they're vested in making sure your project succeeds. Again, I'll be your main point of contact as the account executive. I will walk through, manage all the program management, work with our pre-construction team. David will be our XBE contractor outreach and also the contracting community project liaison. And he'll talk a little bit about our internship program, because we'd be remiss if we left your community without creating some opportunities for some of the younger folks in terms of internships or externships, or working with the high schools to see if there's opportunity to have them work out on the project. Those things are critical to what we do. We know how important it is to all of our clients. The work that we've done through the K-12 environment has allowed us to develop this internship program and have a seamless participation by those individuals. Again, your construction team, boots on the ground, would be a combination of Jake Sandberg and Dale Flick. As I mentioned, in order for this to succeed for Monroe County, our pre-construction services, how we develop that program is absolutely critical. David will be doing it on the XBE outreach side, the local contractor side, but more importantly, we've got 3 full-time estimators in-house that cover all the disciplines. That is critical, because what mostly, CMs get stuck a little bit in a rut, if you will. I owe delivery of 3 estimates, one at schematic design, one at design development, and one at final design before we go out to bid. That's my estimating requirement. Because what they do, or a lot of the competitors do, is they have to go out into the contracting world and get those numbers from subcontractors in order to put their estimates together. We do it in-house, which gives us the flexibility to say, we're going to do more than just the 3 estimates at those milestones. We've got a question between stakeholders. One stakeholder wants to do a certain expansion or more square footage or a different design versus saving money over here and doing it this way. We can get that real-time feedback from our estimators so that good, accurate decisions can be made early. DLZ doesn't have to duplicate design, doesn't have to incur more cost because we have hit a milestone and, oh my gosh, we're over budget. We're doing that process consistently as DLZ is developing drawings, as we're having these program decisions and calls, so that we can give that feedback. So, like I said, we give you the facts so that good decisions can be made by the community. As part of the pre-construction, we also do construction phasing and scheduling. Absolutely critical in working with our industry partners. They're really, there are a handful of industry contractors and vendors that are going to be utilized on this project. They're good. They're very good at what they do, but they need to have proper scheduling, proper lead time. We have to have an open dialogue with them so that we understand what their lead times are, what their manufacturing requirements are, so we can get their product here when needed, but not at an extra cost to the county. We're not accelerating deliveries. We're not, pushing up against deadlines. We're doing those things. And those decisions have to be made well in advance before any shovel touches the dirt. Because the time you get to construction, if those decisions haven't been made correctly, you're too late. You're going to feel the impact. There are going to be costs associated with it. Ryan will talk a little bit about our quoting, our bidding, and our procurement strategies, but we do more management of multiple prime contractors than any other CM. That's different than being a CM at risk where you're managing subcontractors. We are managing prime contractors that have contracts with the owner. We do as much of that or more of that than anybody else. And there's a certain experience level that's needed to do that. There's a certain way that you have to manage contractors so that they know where they fall within the priorities and schedule and that logistics plan. And of course, we'll do the things of local XBE contractor outreach and managing the permitting process. As I mentioned earlier, part of this overall strategy is candidly, how do we flatten this curve of jail construction costs? Now, a lot of this is associated with what we all know that's occurring in the construction industry, which is lots of inflation, lots of escalation, manpower issues, contractors that are at their bandwidth. But we've got to work as a team to try to suppress that curve. How do we keep those costs from increasing at that rate? And we've got strategies to do that. One, as I mentioned, we've got to work with some of the big correctional vendors and contractors. We've got to work with them to get the timing down accurately, so when they can provide their products, their submittals, get in line at sufficient time for them to do these things, not at extra costs. These are opportunities that we can work through with them. Again, talk about, how we're doing contractor engagement. We do this across the state. Big events, we can host them here, we can host them here in the community, but really getting out in front of your local contractors to explain to them when this project is going to occur, how long it's going to occur, get good information for them, get them excited to bid this project. As you recall, bidding is critical to everything. Bidding is critical to what we do. We came here as Skillman without a self-performing contracting partner. We did that strategically because under the CM agency statute, any CM or any affiliate of the CM can't bid the work, can't enter into a contract for the actual work. So if we brought in a partner, an XBE partner or a local partner, and asked them to be a part of the CM team, that takes them out of the pool of bidders available to Monroe County. And those are good contractors. And in this day and age, we shouldn't be taking contractors out of that pool. We should be adding as many contractors in that pool as possible to drive that competition. I'll give you an example. Typically, we see a spread between the first and second low bidder, somewhere between 4% and 7%. So if you're taking contractors out of the market because they're acting as a CM, you're making yourself susceptible to having less bidding competition, susceptible to that 4 to 7% increase. When you're talking about $75 million or $160 million, that's real dollars that can be spent on your program. So we came here strategically as a pure CM that doesn't self-perform so that we can go out into the contractor market and tell them, we need as many of you to bid this project for Monroe County to drive those costs as competitively as we can in a very, very tough market right now. The examples of where we've had successes are in West Lafayette, down in Scott County, as well as Seymour. I think what this slide represents, not only the numbers that we've achieved, but the fact that we track it for you and we have that information available for you, and available for the community. Because again, part of this program is making sure that the community understands the project and has good, accurate information that makes them feel like this is a good spend of taxpayer dollars.
I just want to make sure I'm clear on that. When you say local workforce, that's 10 people working or 100 people working there, 57 of those would be from a local workforce.
Yes.
And then the construction spend would be $100, $56 was spent to a local person.
Correct.
Okay.
With that, I'm going to turn it over to Ryan as your senior project manager. Ryan will kind of walk through our process, what we do, what he does to drive success on these projects.
Yeah, from a high level to start with, as your senior project manager, I'm essentially going to become an extension of your team staff. I'm going to support Dale with whatever he needs to push and manage the schedule in the field. And I'm going to manage all of the project documentation as well as the project accounting from pre-bid of the project all the way through project closeout. So I'm going to talk some specifics and examples of actually what I do, starting in the contractor bidding and award phase. For example, is our estimating team and the DLZ team are working through the DD, SD estimates. I'm starting to look at those estimates and starting to think about how am I going to put together bid categories or bid packages for our prime contractors that's going to give us the most competition on bid day and the most bids on bid day. After we get through the bid event, we'll conduct our pre-award meetings or interviews, and we'll take a deep dive into that multiple contract summary and the scope of work that we've assigned to those prime contracts. 99% of the time, we find something that's a gap, but we always work through that, and that's the point of that pre-award meeting, so we can work as a team to close that gap on something that may have been missed. Once we get through the pre-award meetings, we'll be able to make a strong recommendation to the owner for your team. This is who we're recommending for each one of these prime contracts. That's the lowest, most responsible bidder that can hit the schedule and work within the budget. Moving more into the construction phase, this is where Dale and I start working quite a bit together on quality assurance and quality control. Just an example, pre-installation conferences. Prior to any major scopes of work or pieces of equipment getting put in place, we're going to sit down with the installing contractor. We're going to work with the DLZ team. We're going to make sure what they've brought out to the site, what they're planning on installing is what has been submitted and approved. Make sure they can hit the schedule and just make sure there's not going to be any hiccups, because at the end of the day, what's the worst case scenario? We start putting things in and doing things twice. That impacts the end game of the schedule, and it always impacts someone financially. And then I've personally done this. I know our team has, but we have made visits to contractors' shops. We've talked to manufacturers. For example, I've went to our steel contractor shop to verify that, okay, we have the steel fabricated that we're billing for, and it's ready to be delivered to hit our schedule. So that's not out of the question to make those actual visits to shops. Moving more into our project documentation, our systems that we use to manage the projects day to day. We use our software, it's called eCommunications. Every piece of paper on the project is tracked, managed, and distributed out of our ecom platform. So for example, our meeting minutes, requests for information, our schedule updates, change management documents, submittals and shop drawings, tracked, managed in real time right out of ecom. Just a couple specifics on those items. Dale and I will update and distribute our master schedule each month. What else do I have? Project accounting. Well, actually, I mentioned meeting minutes. We'll conduct our biweekly progress meetings with our contractors, the design team rep, and then sometimes the owner likes to come to those specific meetings, but more often than not nowadays, we'll want to have separate OACM meetings where it's a smaller group with just us, the design team and the owner team. So within that meeting, I'll give timely updates on the budget and the project accounting, any contingencies and allowances that are being spent. That's why we'll always know where we're at financially, so we can make decisions and move the project forward. Some other technology that we use, mainly field oriented, is Autodesk Build, which is BIM 360. This allows us to do our BIM or 3D coordination on a day-to-day basis. So for example, that shot up on the top right, overhead ductwork coordination. We'll have our lead BIM guy, we'll have the electrical contractor, we'll have the fire protection contractor, we'll have the mechanical contractor all in the same room with the Revit files. And then we'll work through any clashes that may be. And if we come up with an issue, obviously we'll work with a design team and we'll work through that. Again, that's all part of the QA QC. You don't want to do things twice. You don't want to get ductwork in the air and then it starts conflicting with the electrical rough ends or the fire protection.
Update that like as builds.
Correct.
So if we do have a problem, then you would address that, and put that in there, so the later.
Yep.
Maintenance, we can look and say that's what it's all about.
That would be part of the closeout documents that come out of Autodesk is the electronic as-builts. Correct. And then something super cool that I really love is Drone Deploy and Matterport. Drone Deploy, we'll do our monthly drone aerials, or more often than not, sometimes our owners like it twice a month, depending on what's happening out in the field. And then Matterport, it's more interior 360 photos for quality control and just general work progress. But that's a good opportunity for owner reps that sometimes if they can't make it out to the job, we can bring the job to them and show them the progress on what's happening. But a cool feature of Drone Deploy that I like is the startup of the project. We'll fly the site before we start construction. We're able to then import in and do layovers of the utility plans, the grading plans, all of the undergrounds, and then the building footprint. That way we can set up our logistics plan so we're not interfering, or we're not gonna have to move our trailer twice or adjust fencing or anything like that. It's just part of the QA QC process that starts early in the project. So for me, I've got the documentation, I've got the project accounting, and then Dale's gonna handle the day-to-day activities and
Yeah, and we're kind of branching off what he said, that Autodesk is something that we require the contractors to do in the specs. They have to have this. We all work together off of this, so the contractors will be looking at this. We automatically upload any ASIs or RFIs. The specs are on there, so everybody, including the owner's team, can get on there and see any of this information at any time. And we automatically update it, so the contractors are always working off the up-to-date information. That way it prevents any kind of conflict out in the field. Same thing with e-com, just, kind of elaborate on that a little bit more. It's the same thing. The owner can get on there. I do detailed daily reports on there every day of, who's on site, how many guys are on site, and all of our safety, toolbox talks, all that stuff put into e-com that you guys can easily access and get on there and see at any time. We are partner of, we're IDLE certified partner, which we're very proud of. It makes us exempt from random OSHA inspections. And the only way you get that is to just continually, year after year, try to be safe out on the job site and minimal amount of accidents. Of course, construction is a dangerous game, but we try to minimize that by being organized and ahead of the game whenever that's basically what I do on site every day, is talk to these guys, walk the site each day, look for unsafe things. We do that. We end up with this low Skillman EMR rating. Anything under 1 is going to be a great rating, and we get that through being safe on the job. And then those are just some of the bullet points of what we work through through background checks and making sure everybody on site is vetted and doing the right thing. And it all starts with this. As soon as they come on site, this is the job site orientation that I go through. I track everybody on site through the Safe Vendor website, and then also I get their name, We give them a hard hat sticker with a number. That way, if we're out there doing a walkthrough or somebody sees something they don't like, they can just give me the hard hat number. We don't have to specifically try to track someone down. You just give me the number, I can handle it. I got a record of everyone on site through this process here. That's the first thing they do when they come on the job site. And then that kind of leads us, and then one of the end things is the closeout. So from beginning to end, you know, we're tracking these guys, making sure the quality and safety is going on. And then as it gets down to the end, that helps us, you know, determine the correct time for the schedule and when to move you guys in, get the punch list done. That way we're not in there trying to do punch list as you guys are moving in. We try to get that ahead of time. That way you guys are ready to transition and it's a smooth transition. And then Brian can speak a little bit more on that closeout as the.
Yeah, for the actual project documentation closeout, like I mentioned in our OACM meeting, if we have those, I'll provide the timely updates on the budget. So when we get into closeout, we're gonna know exactly where we're at, be able to wrap up the project financially very quickly. And then our e-com platform is 75% complete. We'll start collecting all of the O&Ms, the warranties and ad bills, and all that will be wrapped up onto the flash drive and turned over to the owner. Some owners still like hard copies. Obviously, we can do that, but electronic right now is more of the norm.
A 10-month warranty walkthrough, you like to, this is kind of what I was leading into there with this on-site presence. I am a local guy, born and raised here in Bloomington, live local and got quite a few family members actually in the justice system here. So this is what's going to help me track it. If I live here close, I'll always be available. You know, I got local knowledge and experience. We know Kleindorfers is a place for hardware, right? Stuff like that. I can send these guys around to help drive some of that local stuff for the job. And then being on site, I'll be available. You know, I live close, so it's going to help me track the job site and be there when the guys are working Saturdays or Sundays or whatever the case is to get the job done. I can be here and drive by the job on the weekends, check it out. So I feel like that's going to be a big benefit to your guys' project, me being here local and being able to keep a good eye on things. And I know the community and would love to be a part of it.
So Dan talked a little bit about what we do in regards to community engagement, XBE outreach. So I kind of want to talk about how and why we do it. How it starts in pre-construction, utilizing our database and our research, our resources to make sure that we're reaching out to diverse contractors, local contractors, making sure that we maximize the bidding pool as much as we can. We do that through media campaigns, working with the state of Indiana, making sure that every contractor that wants to bid on the project has that opportunity to be a part of the project and work. We also make sure that we hold diversity partnering sessions and pre-bid meetings to make sure that the diverse contractors and local contractors know how to bid the project, know how to get involved, know the scope of work, the schedule, and get informed about what our goals are, what your goals are, and how we can be successful in the project. And lastly, Jeff, you asked a good question. How do we track this information? How do we follow up with contractors? Every month, our prime bidders in an AIA pay application wants to get paid every single month. With that, we have them track their XPE spend, their local workforce spend, and also all their participation in regards to materials and suppliers that are diverse or local. We're tracking that on a monthly basis and communicating with that so that every single month towards the end of the project, we know where our diverse and local spend will be. This is our history and experience with XBE participation. We have the history and the knowledge of exceeding the owner's goals in regards to making sure there's a maximum amount of participation. And we're excited and hopeful to be able to do this for your project as well. Lastly, to touch on our why do we do it? We understand that our workforce is starting to retire. We need more people in our industry. So what are we going to do outside of just building your building? We want to make sure that the younger generation has the opportunity to get involved with construction. We have an award-winning student engagement and community workforce development program. We were highlighted and awarded from the Work and Learn Indiana in 2023 for our internship and community engagement efforts. We were the outstanding employer of the year, and our intern received the intern of the year in 2023. Also, for the innovation for equity, I was honored an award for a Rising Star recipient, and that was due to our Warren Township and other projects, workforce development and student engagement efforts. So we understand how to get the community involved, get the younger generation involved, and help grow our industry. Also with that, we understand that there is a Hoosier Hills Career Center. We want to be a resource to them. We want to provide internships, provide them opportunities to get involved. If they need help with tuition, if they have aspiration to go to college, we want to help them there. If they want to gain hands-on experience and join the local market with the trades or the unions, we get them involved with any carpenters union or plumbing or electrical union. Try to eliminate all the barriers or obstacles there are so it can be a smooth transition from high school or college into our industry.
Thanks, David. Just kind of wrap up here. Again, we think it's critical to the success of this program, this project for Monroe County, managing, working with all the various stakeholders in the communities is our transparent approach that's tried and true over the last 52 years in public works projects. We've got a local and experienced team that we're bringing you, a very passionate site manager who wants to do work in Monroe County again more than I hear it about once a year. We have a developed plan to leverage our partnerships and try to flatten that curve of construction costs and particularly jail costs as they continue to rise. And again, I hope we've proven that we have a long-term commitment to Monroe County, want to be a partner in your community, want to provide you a facility that you're proud of, that will stand the test of time. So with that, Jeff, Corey, Richard, David, you guys have questions, we're open to them.
Dan, can you address your cost proposal? Understanding the percentages and then this $10,000 for construction month. Is that in addition to, is that part of the?
We usually lump sum once we have a better idea of what the general conditions budget is, and that depends on how much of it we put into the various contracts, right? So that fencing, dumpsters, portalets, those types of things that are general conditions or general reimbursable costs. That is an estimate that we will put in, but once we have a better understanding of the total cost of the project and what's broken out in the packages, we'll refine that estimate. But that is in addition to our staffing percentage and in addition to our overhead and profit fee.
That makes sense. And I assume that would change based on when we first start. There's probably not as many toilets needed as at the end of the project, for instance.
Correct. So, we've done it different ways with different clients. We've established a budget. The owner will approve that budget. And then sometimes owners like to what we call flatline it across the construction months because that's consistency versus the peaks and valleys of what the others like to see, back up and what your actual spend is.
But for instance, on the top one, the 2% and the 1%, that is what you're using for your profit and to pay your staff.
Correct.
We don't look for some new fee or something to come in. And then the $10,000 per month is to take care of those dumpsters, like you said, it is all that construction cost. Yeah.
Security, project documentation, those kind of costs that are project related. I'll call them direct project costs.
That leads into probably the next question we had, which is, we have a change order. How do we pay Skillman, or how does Skillman charge us for that change?
Because we're construction management advisor, we are tied to the schedule. So, what we're providing you is staffing and overhead per a schedule. If that change order doesn't impact the schedule significantly, then there will be no increase in our fee. But if it's a major scope change, you add $5 million worth of work that takes another 3 months, we're obviously going to have the cost of having additional staffing out there, additional general conditions, and additional overhead.
Would that then just be like percent on top of the?
That's something that we would negotiate with you, but yeah, we would look at that as that percentage on top of those costs, since you're tying everything into the construction costs of the work.
I've got a few questions. I guess my first one is, we just got through going through COVID, which threw a wrench in everybody's lives and schedules and things like that. Can you walk through how you guys reacted to that in terms of the, the pricing appears to have gotten a little out of control for a while, and maybe it still is, and then also scheduling with all the scheduling issues that cause?
Yeah, a couple of things occurred, Jeff, and one thing, won't get in the weeds because you and I could go into, but a lot of people were talking in terms of force majeure, which is an event outside the control of any party to a contract, right? We worked with our contractors within what we have, what we call our front ends, our general conditions of what costs were acceptable because of those delays or any suspensions in work or any issues with getting either labor or material out to the project, to limit that exposure to the owner, right? Here's what the contract says. Here's what you're entitled to for an extended period of time caused by an unforeseen event. So we work through those things. In response to that also, and Brian can speak to this as well, we found it critical to bid projects earlier, well before the start date. And that does a couple of things. One, in today's day and age where contractors are as busy as they've ever been and are having as much difficult as they are to find quality workforce, giving them the lead time to go and bid a project and then be able to staff that project and work within their own constraints to do that has helped out as a result of, kind of the COVID, the escalation, the issues that we've faced. The other thing that does is it allows us to get on top of early submittals, material procurement, those long lead times, and they're not going away. In fact, things like, mechanical products, heat pumps, we're kind of going backwards instead of forwards again. And we keep our eyes on that, getting those long lead times, scheduling the work so that we're not starting construction, giving a timeout, which is costly to everybody, waiting for product to arrive on site. So that's the coordination Ryan was speaking to, of doing site visits with our suppliers, understanding their production lines, understanding where we fall in line within that, so that we can time these activities to be congruent and not have lapses. Does that answer your question?
I think so. The next question. In your proposal, it had a roughly 150 bed facility that you guys built for what, $14 million. How'd that happen?
Years ago, when prices were reasonable.
That was we were hoping you had some magical formula for
Yeah,
that one.
no, we can't get there, but as I said, guys, it's going to be a team effort with Scott and DLZ and his team to do everything we can to suppress that curve, to try to bring it into management. And it's all hands on deck, because right now it's continues to be one of the most trying times in construction, cost, manpower, lead times.
And then I think the last question I have is, when you do fall behind, the schedule falls behind, because this is a very time sensitive project, right? When we get going, we wanted it done yesterday, essentially. How do you catch up? How do you resolve those slowdowns and then get people back on schedule?
Yeah, so we have developed over 50 years our general conditions, our specifications that are provided to all contractors. I like to say that's 50 years of bumps, bruises, scrapes, things that we have learned over time in managing these types of projects. And one of the tools that's available to us in our front ends is we do two things. One, we've got a 48-hour notice. So a contractor starts slipping in its delivery of work and its performance, we can issue a 48-hour notice. If they don't start implementing remedies and cure those delays and defaults, then it gives us the opportunity, working with the owner, to supplement their workforce. Not terminate them, but get out other contractors that can supplement their workforce. Be it maybe another, say it's concrete, be it another concrete crew to go in and get footers knocked out where they're behind. And then work towards deducting those dollars out of that contractor since they didn't perform the work. We had to go buy, get a crew to do it, but didn't perform the work and do that. We also work with, and we're doing this, right now with a contractor. Hey, you're behind. We are working with all the other contractors to put together an acceleration schedule for them to make up for your deficiencies. And we are tracking what those costs are in order for us to then back charge you against you. And that goes to transparency, Jeff. I mean, because we don't do it behind the scenes. We don't give surprises to contractors to say, hey, you weren't performing. And by the way, we're going to hit you with this. We do it through transparency. We do it through e-com when we have these incidents, so people are tracking it, and it incentivizes that contractor having some issues to say, all right, can't afford to incur these back charges. I need to get more resources out to this project.
You guys have any other questions?
I don't. You guys covered every one of my questions.
How about you mentioned concrete. How about we have a bad batch of concrete from IMI, or we have a bad contractor and it needs to be ripped up and taken back? I mean, I assume you're going after that contractor, but what does that mean to Monroe County? Do we have to pay for it again? Do we?
Brian, you want to take that? You handled that situation a few times.
Yeah, I mean, it does happen, but to start off with our QA/QC, we're gonna have a materials testing consultant readily available, and that's kind of part of that's a big number for the general conditions. So whether it's Patriot Engineering, Alden Witzik, they're gonna be on site testing the concrete before it goes in place. But also our pre-installation meetings as well, we're gonna make sure prior to that contractor starting work, you have all your ducks in a row and you're putting in what's specified and approved. So if it slips past that and there's an incident where it has to be removed, that is the fault of the contractor and it'd be no cost to the owner.
And a lot,
But we have to do our job to mitigate that, because again, nobody wants to do anything twice. It
right,
doesn't work out well for anyone.
these testing companies also, we do bearing tests on the dirt, even like in the footings before the concrete goes in. We're making sure all that stuff's in line and in order before, that way it eliminates the problems of having to tear stuff out, just from the very digging in the dirt, we're testing all the way up. That's what my job is on site, is to make sure we avoid stuff like that. That way we're not tearing out, and in turn it saves time and money.
Doesn't happen, but you addressed my question. If it does, I appreciate that.
Yeah,
And all those testing reports that we get from those agencies go right on e-com. All that stuff gets listed on there just as the project documentation. And I mean, you can always go back and look at that if you feel the need to.
David, your question kind of begs a more broader answer too, is that's why we are a CM agent. Like, that's what we do. So we don't have the conflicts. We don't have anybody but the owner's interests at our heart. How do we protect the owner's dollars? That is our goal. How do we make sure that you, as a representative of Monroe County, be a good steward of dollars, not pay for things twice, not pay for bad work, not pay for, extended delays? How do we manage that? And that's why I go back to, it's like, we manage the program. We're here to make sure that all these pieces and parts all fit together and are packaged well for you.
Questions?
I do. When a contract is being developed, the the direct project costs, the reimbursables, do you guys identify those ahead of time? Just so,
For our direct reimbursables,
yeah,
yeah, we have some clients, again, some clients want very detailed budgets, how are you gonna spend your money? What's the backup for them? And we're happy to do that. Other clients would say, give us a budget. We want to straight line that across the course of construction because that's just easier and more intuitive for our finance people. So, yes, Richard, we will show you what those costs are, what those direct reimbursables are, and so that you feel comfortable that those dollars are being spent wisely.
thanks.
Yep.
Well, I appreciate you guys coming in. I think we've got another interview today and then, we haven't really talked about time frame for final answer, but I think I think it was in the RFPs and we're hoping to keep on that timeline. So it should be fairly soon because I think I was pretty aggressive.
Thank you.
Thanks for
Thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
This is the third of 3 interviews we have. We have 3 respondents. We have been recording each one of these interviews, and therefore it's going to be put on the website for the public to come in and review. I like to begin this with reminding the public who's watching this, that this is for the construction manager for this jail and potentially a criminal justice system project. That we're looking for people to help us create and build a much more efficient, much more time sensitive kind of structure. The people we're interviewing are not having a decision-making factor in where it's going or how many beds the jail will have. This is more for the professional services as we go through the design phase to make sure what we locally want will be designed efficiently and effectively so that it can operate well. So I just kind of wanted to start all of these with that. So if someone's watching from the public, they're just watching this one, they have that information. I'm Jeff Cockrell. I'm with the county attorney's office. I'm kind of acting as the moderator today. David Gardner is with ASI, who handles our building, our justice building maintenance, including the jail maintenance. We have a contract with them. He's here to kind of help Corey and Richard with questions and things like that to make sure they get the information they need. Richard Kreider's our fleet and building director. He will be one of the 2 scorers for today, and Corey Grass is our transitional team director. So he's working with the sheriff's department, and so he is also going to help with the scoring of these RFPs. So you have any questions for us on who we are and kind of our roles? If not, you guys can just go forth.
Well, thank you. I'm going to step up to the podium. Morning. We're very excited to be here today. We understand how important this project is for your community, and we're sure you're anxious to get started. So we're going to start off with with introductions. My name is Molly Burns, and I'm Vice President at F.A. Wilhelm Construction. My role is I work with our teams on procuring work with current clients as well as new clients. And then I do a lot of strategic communication planning with several of our clients. When we were the CM on the 4th Street Garage, I worked with the city of Bloomington to communicate with the different business owners so they understood what was happening during that construction process.
Hello, everybody. My name is Tyshawn Allen, and I'm with Taylor Brothers Construction. My role at Taylor Brothers is Vice President of Operations. I oversee our project management, estimating, and field force teams. And on this project, I'll serve as the operations manager alongside of Mitch.
Morning. My name is Mitch Davison. My title is Operations Manager for Wilhelm Construction. My main purpose of the project is to make sure that we follow through with our commitment to the county to deliver the project with all the services that we promise to provide you. Most of my role will be behind the scenes supporting our staff, whether it's in pre-construction or in the construction phase of the project. But I will not be full-time on the project, but I'll be attending meetings, design meetings, weekly meetings with the team and with the county.
Good morning, Jason Cunningham, Contracts Manager, F.A. Wilhelm. Previous experience was the design lead for the design, build, pursuit, and final design and execution for Marion County Jail, Indianapolis, and the Sheriff's Office, which joined and connected the courthouse. Recently, the Contracts Manager for Elanco Global Headquarters Research and Development Center and roadway improvements by DPW and utility infrastructure delivery for City of Indianapolis for the headquarters of Elanco.
My name is Rachel Woznicki. I'm a project manager. I've been at Wilhelm a little over 6 years. My relevant experience was with Mitch on the Marion County Courthouse for a little over 2 years, and now I'm working with Jason on the Elanco headquarters project.
And I'm Tyler Blank. I'm pre-construction manager for this project. I'll be working with the project team throughout the pre-construction phase, the design phase, and the budgeting phases. Some of my similar experience, I was pre-construction for our Westville prison, as well as the Justice Center parking garages in Indianapolis.
So we're bringing a team that has recently worked on a very successful project in Marion County for their Justice Center campus. We've prepared a presentation today that talks about our relevant experience, our project team, their different roles and their experience, and then we'll talk about our project approach. We'd really like for this to be interactive, so please feel free to interrupt us at any time with questions, or if you'd like to clarify something, we'd love to talk about what it is you want to talk about. In our proposal, we suggested that you consider using CMC for this project due to the size and the complexity of it. And there's a couple of reasons that we feel you would get more benefit from utilizing a CMC versus a CMA. And we'll talk about these in our approach today. And I'll just highlight a couple of those. You know, one of the biggest benefits to hiring a CMC is shifting the risks from the owner, the county, to the contractor. On a project like this, we would envision 30 to 50 different bid packages. And if you were to utilize CMC, we would take that risk instead of it being on the owner. Establishing a guaranteed maximum price after the project bids. That way, you know what this project's going to cost and you don't have to worry about it going over that. That's a benefit of CMC. And bidding and execution capabilities. Both Wilhelm and Taylor Brothers have the ability to self-perform certain aspects of the project. In a market that's tight as it comes to subcontractors, it's nice to have more available bidders at your fingertips. And so that's definitely a benefit of the CMC. And overall, it saves money, time, and resources. So now I'm going to turn it over to Mitch and Tyshawn to talk about our team.
Molly. During our introductions and then also in our RFP response, you'll see a lot of the projects that we've referenced of relevant experience. I would like to point out to the top left corner, that's the Marion County Justice Center campus. It's an entire campus. Indianapolis moved their jail and their courthouse from downtown to an area that's used to be the old Citizens Gas facility. And it's right down the street from our main office. So this is one of our home projects, but the tower to the left is the courthouse building. We understand you guys are interested in possibly building a courthouse at this site and potentially a second phase. That delivery method for that project was a little bit different than what you're looking for, but basically the city worked with DLZ, which I believe is the architect that you selected for the project, and developed those design the program for the project, the schematic design for the project, and the DD level documents, and they progressed the project to that point. That point, then they gave the DD documents to the CM, which was Wilhelm, and then we worked with the judges and all the other stakeholders to mold and progress that design to construction documents. So before I became an operations manager, as the contract manager on that, we had multiple meetings with the judges and our design team to work through all those problems. They're a finicky bunch sometimes with the judges, so it was fun, but it was very fun meetings, working with them and delivering the project. There are 70 different courtrooms in this building for a $190 million project. And Rachel and I worked together. And then also we had a partnership with Taylor Brothers, exactly the same scenario that we are looking to do for your project. So point being is that we're not collecting a brand new team for you. We've done this in the past and have a track record for it. Also on that project, to the right-hand side of that same campus is the Marion County Jail. Jason discussed that, his opening. That portion of the building was procured in the exact same manner described as the courthouse. Jason led as the project executive for that team, working with the sheriff's office and other stakeholders to deliver that 3,000 bed jail, $300 million project for the city of Indianapolis. And it's won multiple awards and is highly successful project that we're very proud of as a team with Wilhelm and Taylor Brothers. And then lastly is other projects on that campus is the Youth and Family Service and the Assessment Intervention Center. Both of those projects, we bid lump sum as a general contractor, and those projects, assessment intervention is complete. Youth and Family Services is in construction right now. But we also are currently working, Wilhelm is currently working in Westville, Westville is way up in northern Indiana. It's just south of Michigan City. The state is building a replacement prison at that facility just south of the existing prison. Tyler Blank led Wilhelm's effort as the pre-construction manager for that project. It's $1 billion project, 3,500 bed facility. And we are currently in procurement and construction, and we are basically with little under 1% within our budget of that. So please take advantage of all of the cost information and gathering to as part of that project. There's a lot of while prisons are different than jails, a lot of the similar construction types are in that we can leverage to provide you a very accurate.
We actually had a question about the Westville.
Sure.
Like, because when it started, it was supposed to be like a $300 million or $400 million project, and then it jumped to 1.2 billion.
The original estimate was 5 years old, and with inflation and things like that, and just the marketplace, it has expanded that much over time. So yes, the data that I gave you for the courthouse in Marion County, they would not be built in today's dollars. Those were yesterday's dollars at that point. So yes, unfortunately, inflation and cost of construction has significantly increased over those periods of time. But yeah, that's a great question. So any more questions about Westville or any of the other project?
Well, I guess I'm curious with the assessment and intervention center. How close is that located to the jail and the courts?
In the campus. So actually it's, we don't have a map of it, but if we're the glass facing of the courthouse, there's a river or creek there. It's right across the creek. So when you're standing inside the courthouse and looking down, you're looking down at the AIC building, and then to the right of that are some new parking garages. And then to the right of that are the new, I believe it's the prosecutor's office and attorney offices in there. And then across the street from that is the existing Twin, is it Twin Acres? Pardon me? Twin Airs. Twin Airs, seems to be the old movie theater area, but it's the Twin Airs Mall.
The front doors of each one of those three facilities are within 300-400 yards of each other. They're centrally located on a campus. Yeah, same campus.
Turn your mic on, Jason.
Sorry. The courthouse is connected by the 80,000 square foot sheriff's building as well. In between, as you can see there, just above the verbiage is the main entrance to the facilities. And that was a part of the jail project. So the jail and the sheriff's building were under a single contract with the city, and then the courthouse was under, as Mitch referenced.
But those connect, right?
Those connect at the surface, as well as they connect for inmate transportation as well. The courthouse had the Sally Port and booking, but then there was also an underground tunnel and a holding area to transfer inmates back and forth from the courthouse to the jail if they did not select to use the video conferencing, or the courthouse was equipped with substantial video conferencing, even though the courthouse and judges were on considered the same building.
And the courthouse was designed, as Jason said, that the prisoners or detained individuals come in through the basement, and then they go to one of three different secure elevators that goes up into the tower. And then those elevators open up into a secure holding area in between a pair of courtrooms. So the way the layout of a typical floor is you have a pair of courtroom. There's three pairs with a secure elevator in between to get you, and holding areas in between. And then the back of house is where the judges enter the courtroom, and in the front glass side is where all the general public comes in through there. So there is no intermixing of judges in public, prisoners in public, or prisoners and and judges. It's a very efficient way. So really the only time that all three are in the same room is when they're in the courtroom itself.
Well, what also isn't pictured here that Tyler worked on was a pair of garages, parking garages. Secure parking garage for the judges primarily was the first focal point, and then the second garage was built as well with direct access to the courthouse. So that, keep in mind, the jail being so close, they could, for some apparent reason, monitor the judges coming and going. So that the security of them accessing their vehicles was very important, which came out as far as program requirements were concerned.
So as I left Westville's, that's currently construction. I serve as project executive for that joint venture project we have in northern Indiana. And as I said, Tyler was the lead pre-construction manager for that. So please leverage all the information that we have and real cost data to provide a very accurate budget for that. But I would like to turn it over to Tyshawn to kind of, Taylor Brothers was with our team on the courthouse project. So I think I'd like to give him a chance to kind of talk about what Taylor Brothers brings in and discuss our relationship.
Thanks, Mitch. So like Mitch said and Molly said, we've been working with Wilhelm for decades. Our original leadership worked together. Tippy Wilhelm and our CEO worked together, and that relationship is blended into today. I personally worked with Mitch over the last 5-6 years on a project-related basis. All the projects you see in front of you, Taylor Brothers has been involved as a partner or a trade partner. So when we partner with Wilhelm, I think one of the aspects both of our firms bring and our core values is knowing that both our groups self-perform. We're a building contractor as well. So as Taylor Brothers, we're a general contractor, CM partner. Our team is down there. They will be on this project. So we have estimating capabilities, and our assistant project managers will serve to assist the Wilhelm team as well as our superintendent, which makes it pretty valuable if we decide to bid work. We can take on the scope of work. That way we can actually run a project ourselves. What they've allowed us to do as a smaller contractor is grow with them. So that's been real valuable to our firm as well, to see how a company like theirs does it. At the Justice Center, we touched a good amount of buildings on that campus, not only a courthouse where we installed the millwork in the courthouses, but we did all the doors, frames and hardware on that project. And in the jail, we did a signage package, we built the penthouses, and we also did some general trades work as well as the cup. So we talk about similar experience and similar projects. This is a team that's worked together to be able to bring you some good value.
So if this is kind of our large project, if we do this, in the CMC type model, but if the county decides to do both the jail and the courthouse project, the big picture, we have all these resources here to help manage both the pre-construction side of the project as well as the construction phase of the project. As I said, I'll be the operations manager or project executive for the project. I will not be full-time, but Jason will be your main point of contact through both pre-construction and the construction phase of the project. So he'll bridge the gap between the two. As I said, Tyler will lead the pre-construction effort, and then we'll have Rachel Woznicki as the project manager. And then through here, we are utilizing Taylor Brothers both in the pre-construction effort with Alex Klopfelter, and then also Zachary Cooper on the superintendent side in the field. So and we have plenty of other resources available to us, whether it's our BIM group, our quality assurance, and our safety departments as well.
I guess the question about this chart is, when we look at this, one of the things that we really want to get out of today is how are the interactions with your team going to be with the county, and then also, and I point this way because Scott Carnegie is with DLZ and they're the architect. He's not here in a official capacity, but how is that information, how's that communications really going to flow? Who are we going to call if we have an issue? How are we going to make sure we've got the latest and greatest information? How does that work?
Jason, Jason will be the main driver and the main point of contact. I'll be there if for some other reason you're not getting what you want, you would contact me, but I don't see that as being a problem, but Jason will be the main point of contact. So why don't you go ahead with that answer?
Sure. Yeah, I'll be the main point of contact, as Mitch alluded to, both from the pre-con perspective all the way through procurement, construction, every phase of the project through closeout. Tyler will be right by my side through the pre-construction process. We'll be conversing back and forth with the efforts. Tyler will likely be in a lot of the meetings. What was successful at Marion County, we had user group meetings as you guys are programming and gathering the information from the sheriff's department, and other stakeholders and end users were a part of that process to be able to weigh in, support. From a communication standpoint, I know you guys will probably have some sort of software management tool from meeting minutes and agendas and those sort of things, and document share, and we'll participate in that. And but as far as the primary point of contact in the early all the way through the process, it'll be myself, and then we'll be bringing in key parts and people throughout the process to ensure consistent transition of information all the way through. So it's not he's not a part of this project anymore, he's moved on to something else, those sort of things. It'll be the contract manager, which is myself, as that primary point for you.
Great minds think alike, because I had the exact same question, but I thought I answered as you were going, and you guys were again, so thank you.
Okay, cool.
But, ultimately you're the customer. So what you envision as the method is your prerogative. I mean, we will work within the framework that you desire. Not all projects are the same. In fact, almost all of them are a little bit different one way or the other. So if Mr. Grass, if you'd like to lead the effort on the design and interface with the sheriffs on the jail and whatnot, we're an advisor. We certainly do that. If you want us to take the lead and have Jason be the I guess the facilitator of the meetings for you on your behalf, we can do that as well. So it's really we're customer driven. So the way you want to shape and foresee the project is the way we'll do the project.
Thank you.
Questions about organization or government experience? All right, we'll turn it over to.
I think we've covered a lot of that. It's great.
Turn it over to Jason and Tyler to talk through the pre-construction process.
Okay. Thanks, Molly. One of the things, and we know you guys are just getting kicked off on your programming and your engagement with architect and sheriff's department and everything. But one of the things, the benefit of pre-construction and involving our team up front is the thought process, design, development, engagement, lending support from a cost standpoint, constructability, material evaluation, what's accessible, what's not, what meets the specs and standards, and evaluating labor resources, because we all know that labor resources are an issue for the state of Indiana. There's a lot of work going on. So we're able to have that input as well. From a site evaluation and development costs, we know that's not per se one of the things that's solid at this point and discussed, but a good explanation or a scenario that we presented here at the Marion County site, as Mitch alluded to, is the old coking plant, and a lot of materials were remediated and brought in. The soils were unstable. So we worked with our resources in the network and brought in what is called CMCs, controlled modulus columns, which is a soil densifying process, which allowed us to shallow up foundations and make them a lot smaller, and utilizing less volume of concrete was much more efficient, and it was actually incorporated across all areas of the Marion County Justice Facility as a unified foundation support approach. So those are the things that we can be involved in and support and help with throughout the process, and with the resources that we have for, maybe it's developing selecting a site, maybe it's just defining the foundations on a particular site that you come up with. But either way, we're able to support for all facets of that process. Risk analysis and mitigation. This comes again from a labor resource standpoint, material availability. The detention market per se is pretty narrow, pretty tight from a supplier standpoint. But there are ways, to do, and get a good share of work split across so that you're not putting all of your eggs in one basket from a cell type, from a wall type, masonry, wall panels, steel cells, whole 9 yards. So, mobilization was just explaining, we'd like to support in, and have that cascaded throughout. Because a lot of the materials that come in are large size, it's tight, sites can be tight, soil conditions can vary. So having that out there, a part of the bidding process is very important so that all your subs and suppliers know everything up front and, they can't hold anything, throughout the duration of the project. So Tyler and I lead those, we're a part of that whole entire process. Again, I take the point, but Tyler uses all of this information and supports all of this information so that once the bidding process and estimating, process from a construction document standpoint is ready to roll, he's got everything that he's got needed, rolled up into one. So it's all executed and smooth and transitional.
Yeah, and you saw earlier the organization chart between pre-construction and construction specific to the job. What we wanted to show here is our depth of resources that can be available as needed. We have 25 plus individuals here between our pre-construction departments, ranging from estimators to pre-construction to designers to engineers. Just wanted to show the depth of resources that can be available if needed during pre-construction. Getting into the pre-construction process, there's going to be several activities going on during this phase, but collaboration with the owner and the design team during the design phase, making sure we're heading in the right direction, making the right decision, getting the product that you all want. Cost studies for different scenarios. There may be opportunities where we want to study some different options for the structure as well as the facade, as well as the cells. Lay up a few different options and then make a selection, either if it's cost or durability. We can present those in front of you to make a selection there. Providing cost updates throughout the design stages. We want to develop an initial conceptual budget early on in this, and then as we work through design, the different stages, we will update that budget as we go to see how the costs are trending, see if we need to make any adjustments or modifications there. Constructability reviews where we're looking at end user use, constructability details, things like that to get updated as we finalize the construction documents, and then value engineering if necessary. We're always looking for ways to save money, whether it's changing a product, a material type, or a construction type. One example on the courthouse, we looked at a concrete structure versus a steel structure, and it came in at a pretty big savings to go concrete. So we made that selection, went with a concrete frame, saved the project money as part of that value engineering process. Then getting into the public bidding process, early on, we want to establish that outreach event where we're going to host an outreach event before the bids go out and invite the community, invite subcontractors, suppliers, tell them about the project, the size of it, what bid packages will be available, timing, things like that, just to pique their interest, get it on their radar. And then developing a bid manual. Here's a few things that are going to be in that manual, the scopes of work for all the different bid packages that we're going to be bidding out, the bid forms, schedule, site logistics plan, as well as a lot of other information that is going to be needed for them to put together a complete proposal when that time comes. Pre-bid meeting, we'll have that shortly after the invites go out. Overview of the job, get any questions answered, and then once the bids come in, we'll recap those as part of our analysis before we make an award. We want to make sure that each bidder for that bid package has the scope that we intended for them to have, so we can make the right selection based on that scope. And then subcontractor engagement, that's very important, both during pre-construction budgeting updates and as well as the bidding side of things. And we currently work with and have worked with several local companies, Kreider & Kreider, General Interiors, Cassidy, HFI, to name a few, but we're seeking that subcontractor engagement throughout. And then guaranteed maximum price, the CMC was mentioned earlier. The benefit there is that you can start getting some initial procurement done early on if we need to get some long lead items, do a phased GMP. It really helps cap and mitigate risks associated with the overall cost, and it'll be based on a set of documents at that time.
Before we get into the construction side, are there any questions about our pre-construction process? Turn it over to Jason and Rachel.
Right. Thanks, Molly. You know, working through the jail on a design build approach, what was pretty cool from the owner side, you know, had a design team, as Mitch alluded to, developing the design criteria, programmer requirements, and then ultimately DDs. But then, you know, delivering it as design build, you know, we had several of our own detention architects and designers on staff too. So we had really the full gamut. As you know, we had the full gamut to pick the brains of and learn from, and, you know, and input from an expertise standpoint, which was really beneficial for the project team. But here, you know, some of the things that we learned and experienced throughout the project was the JLSL analysis and the mock-up periods, making sure that they are implemented throughout the process so that your teams get the right feel, get the right confidence that they have what they need going forward operating the jail. That was probably the most critical piece of the information for the part of the process. You know, you can see there, you know, quite a few things were implemented, and basically everything we brought in for the sheriff's team or sheriff's department to utilize and try out essentially before they were purchased.
I guess I want to make sure I understand what you mean by mock-up, mock-up period.
Okay, so actually, Molly, if you can jump up a couple slides. Okay, so you can see there on the right was a prefabricated modular steel cell. So essentially what we did there for the jail was we worked with the manufacturer to have one. We did its own drawing, and we had that brought in several months before the rest of the steel cells, so that the operations team could literally come in. They were hanging from the beds. They were taking food trays and they were beating on the toilets. They were trying to clog the toilets. They were trying to pass contraband through the screens. Those are diffusers in the corner. They were trying to cut through all that stuff. They brought in, you know, I don't remember exactly what the word was, but they basically brought in their SWAT team and let them try to destroy the steel cell. They tried to modify the locking system. They tried to, you know, see what could hang, you know, sheets and different things from the beds and the slopes and the angles, and really ran it through the test. You know, it's one thing to be able to go and tour the facilities, but it's another to bring 10 or 12 or your whole team over and let them truly feel it. They walked away with a full confidence, you know, in the approach that was designed. So that's what we mean by mock-ups in that standpoint. And Rachel can talk about it from the judge's standpoint here in a little bit. But that's really what we try to do from a standpoint, because it is your one chance to get it right, and feeling confident making those decisions is key for the project. Okay, so, you know, coordinating with sheriff and city officials, you know, it is a very lengthy process. You know, you guys have talked about design periods and keeping those updated along the way for key stakeholders, making sure we're all aligned and communicating well and knowing what we need to do mock-ups on, knowing what we need further input on versus, you know, putting it on paper and agreeing to it, because it's very, very different to see it on paper than it is in person. So operational mindset, one of the things that I gained personally from that coordination, from those user group meetings, was seeing things through the jailers, the deputies, and the sheriff's eyes. You know, concealed places for contraband. You know, basically, Colonel Martin said, if you can stick a credit card in it, it needs caulked. You know, so the approach to detention caulking is a pretty sincere one, because it's very expensive. You guys well know from replacement costs and managing current jails. So coming up with those base standards and being able to add, and, you know, through the ebbs and flows of construction, you have cracks show up. So we have to be able to visualize that and understand the result that, that small 1/16 of an inch crack could be a razor blade that could cause havoc in the jail. So being able to put yourself in that mindset, implementing anti-ligature devices, that's pretty well from a, expert like DLZ, they get a lot of that called for from your standpoint of your towel racks and those sort of things, that so many pounds per pressure, the device breaks away. But, even down through lock sets, knowing that, suicide can happen from 42 inches down, because it's not just standing up, it's sitting down. They can still carry out the same intended practice. And so getting to understand all of those truly from a sheriff's and deputy's eyes is just absolutely paramount. And it was a culture that was really cool to see go through our entire team, because it was just repetitive over and over and over again. Quality of life, you can see through some of the pictures here, the themes that can be drummed up, from a standpoint of the culture and the feel, trying to levelize or normalize the feel and the quality of life that they have in there to keep everything as even keel as possible is pretty cool. Here we had, day rooms had themes, color schemes, had softness, throughout the carpet and artwork on the walls and things to help through that. I don't know if you've gotten to the point where if you've got a mix, or if you're going all direct or indirect supervision. But that's one of the things that I've followed up with, kept in good contact with Marion County after the fact. And, some of the things that they wish they would have done different or evaluated more was direct versus indirect supervision, strictly all cameras versus, deputies being in the room. So understanding.
Which route did they go?
They actually have a mix, but a majority of their housing units are, I would say probably 80% of their housing units are indirect with camera. We basically put in a second level mezzanine. They have two double stacked housing units, and then there's 3 or 4 deputies that walk the hall, full length of the facility, and have windows that look into the day rooms, but they're constantly monitored by security electronics. And that part of their business case paid for a lot of the jail, right? But it doesn't alleviate the concerns and the management, of the inmates, from the process. So he said, has its pros and cons, and it's one of those that he basically just has to live with going after. But that really, had he known it was going to be that significant of an impact, he may have done a few things different. And again, lessons learned, the user group meetings, getting all the intel in the room, no idea is a bad idea, throw it out there, see what sticks. Between all of us, there's going to be a place to go look at it. Understanding program requirements. Again, we got off to a slow start with that. But it became a constant. It was always the basis of the user group meetings. Steel mock-ups we talked about. Detailed door functions and operational controls, knowing, getting your security equipment systems on board early, so that the functions of the controls, and doing a door schedule review. It's very long, very tedious. You want to, pull your hair out and scratch your eyes. But it is probably one of the most critical management tools of the jail operation, and integrating that with your security system. Detention network for input, tours, like Mitch mentioned before, all the current work at Westville, Marion County is open for us to come anytime. Have the conversations. Colonel Martin, Sheriff Forstall's #2, is open door, lessons learned, do whatever we need to talk through. He's willing to support you guys in any way as well. But it's a great process, great project, a little scary, getting that new experience. But the detention market is very cool. So, turn it over to Rachel. She can talk about the courthouse mock-up and some of the other things as far as operations are concerned. But like she had mentioned, we've been working together for nearly 2 years now. So we'd like to keep it going.
Yeah, so the picture there on the left, we already spoke on the one on the right with the steel cell, but the one on the left is from the courtroom. And so I understand you guys haven't decided yet whether or not you want to move your justice center and courtroom over with the jail. But this is kind of a good example of what we did on the courthouse. We built this offsite before we ever poured a footing and allowed the design team and the judges to come in and walk around, pick carpet, do whatever they needed to do. And get a feel for if where the judge stands, if it's high enough, that kind of thing. And so this was really neat, making sure that the programming of the project starts way before construction. One cool thing about the courthouse is how it was designed. So Mitch kind of touched on this a little bit, but the courtrooms and the back of house areas and then the public areas was all kind of set up like a maze. And so nobody really knew where to go. The public didn't know where to go in terms of safety for the judges and for the inmates. And so a part of that would be getting the sheriff's team and other stakeholders kind of into the page turn process. And whenever Tyler's and the design team is working to make sure that we sit down and go page by page and make sure that any opportunities for changes that your team sees gets implemented early on in the process. Project management, I'll run through quickly what you can expect from the construction side. Once Tyler turns over the project for construction, I'll work on buying subcontracts and writing the scopes of work. This is for everything from flooring to MEP systems, everything in the project I will write. And then the next bullet point, safety and quality, I want to touch on quickly. We have a lot of staff members on the safety and quality side, make sure everybody goes home safe the way they came in, and that we deliver a quality project to you guys at the end of the day. Schedule wise, this is something that Wilhelm's known for. Hitting a schedule isn't an option for Wilhelm. So
It's not a goal. It's
yeah, and so one of the ways that we do this is through our trade contractors. A big hefty portion of the schedule is by the structure, and so a lot of our trade contracts can do the concrete or the masonry work and drive that schedule and make sure you guys can move in when you want to. Our project engineer team, they work with me largely on document management, on getting everything approved, any questions answered with the design team. And then some technology resources we have. We use Procore for material procurement, which is every part and piece of the project. We track and make sure it's on schedule. And again, back to the schedule, we want to make sure we hit that end date for you guys. And then this picture is actually our online walkthrough. It's a software called Struction Site. And so our project engineers go through with a camera on their hard hat and walk through the whole project each week. And it's basically like Google Maps. You can click through the progress of the project, and we can give you guys access, or whoever you want to have access to that. Struction Site. They have a few different softwares you can use, but that's the one we use.
So Rachel, just to clarify, if somebody couldn't visit the job site on a regular basis, they could still go and look at the video and see how the progress?
Mm-hmm. It can be used for a lot of different things. I remember on the courthouse, we used it to make sure we knew where everything was in the walls before we went and hung up the TVs, so we didn't hit a cable or plumbing pipe or something like that. So it's a good resource for a lot of aspects.
You literally walk in the shoes of the project manager or engineer that's doing the camera walk, and it shows you the path, as you can see there in the lower left, of the exact route that they take to take the video.
The last point, so owner training and maintenance, I want to touch on. This is one of the more important aspects of turning over a construction project. So at the end, we'll literally get your entire maintenance team in a room, make sure everybody's trained up on how to work the MEP systems and clean the different types of products, especially in the detention. You're not scratching some of the stainless steel surfaces or whatever it may be. So we want to make sure you guys know how to take over the project and run with it for a long time.
How long are you available after that?
I think you've told us 12 months.
Okay, I'm just checking. All right.
No, we keep so one of the document management and communication tools, you know, not knowing what DLZ is going to use with you guys, but well, she mentioned Procore. Procore's up there. So all of our stuff stays up on Procore. So it's even a software-based tool that we can use to communicate, exchange information and do training and certain things like that too. But, you know, so Mitch is going to come up and say something here, but yeah, that's really what we utilize. That's everything's up there, videos, training, all that's information's there, but we're always there for resources as well.
And at the courthouse, you know, when it's a large facility and the judges even, despite going through all the design ramifications and stuff, there were some changes that needed to be made after the fact. And most of it had to do from a technological standpoint of the videotaping and of the courtrooms. They made some changes on there. So we, even though the courthouse had been turned over and they began using it, we were there for a period of time afterwards, doing some slight modifications to it to customize the project for their needs when they moved in. So I think you can expect that to be the same case, and maybe for the jail or at least the sheriff's office portion of it.
Yeah, I think by subcontract or by system, it varies. You know, you may not need, you only may need 3 months of service after the sale from your TV provider or your video phone provider. But from your security electronics provider, you may need 12, 16, 18 months because there's ongoing training. You've got people coming in, kind of train the trainer, you know, approach, because we know turnover is a big deal in your environment as far as employees and deputies are concerned. So we can think through that as a process, as a team, mechanically and electrically and plumbing and things. You know, getting you guys to a comfortable, I'm assuming it's David's group that's going to be managing a lot of that. What helps that transition in my mind, is working through all of the access points to service those elements, you know, whether they're front service cells or whether there's corridors between back-to-back cells, accessing ductwork, access control points in detention grade ceilings. You know, all of those things are worked through prior to construction, you know, and, you know, a part of bringing people on earlier is to get the construction side of that aspect too, as well as, you know, a maintenance perspective, getting all of those people in the room to truly understand what it means. How much do you replace certain elements? You know, fiber was a big deal, you know, because fiber needs change all the time. Wi-Fi security changes. So that was managed differently than, say, you know, sprinklers and water, you know, and sanitary. So you kind of work through it by system and kind of figure out how that program is going to work for you on an ongoing basis. And then we can write that into the bid manuals and the documents, you know, make sure you get what you need ongoing.
To just to wrap up our presentation before we turn it over to you for question and answers, just like to share some thoughts on why we believe that Wilhelm Taylor Brothers would be a great fit for this project. And the first one is unmatched resources. We didn't talk about this in our intro, but between our two firms, we have over 4,000 employees that work throughout the state of Indiana. We have the people, the equipment, that could benefit you on this project. We have long-term relationships with the subcontractors and suppliers in this community, and we would bring those relationships to bear. Second is a proven track record. We're bringing a team to you that's been heavily involved on a similar type project. The project was a success from a budget, from a safety perspective, from a schedule, and it's a beautifully designed building that we're very proud of today. Commitment to diversity. We didn't mention this earlier, but Taylor Brothers is a certified MBE company with the state of Indiana. As Ty said, we've been working with them for decades. They bring a lot of value to our projects and we enjoy working with them, and we're committed to diversity and we would bring that to your project. And then finally, experience in Monroe County. We've been working in this area since the 1940s. Our first project was the St. Charles Catholic Church in Bloomington. We have more than 60 employees that live in Monroe County. We are very familiar working with both the city and the county, and we have a lot of relationships in here, and we're committed to delivering a successful project to you. So now I'd like to turn it over to questions.
I've got a few. I guess one of the things that we've discussed is, we just got through probably one of the most tumultuous histories of construction industry with the COVID-19. So we were kind of wondering if you could explain how you managed to work through that and still get projects done on time and on budget, if possible.
Well, we've actually, both the jail project and the courthouse project were both constructed during that period of time. And, it was, at that time, it was, you didn't know what was going to happen or what the rules were or whatnot, but, we basically treated it just like the, general public, is that we spaced people out as much as we could. We went through some protocols of cleaning handrails, cleaning our bathroom facilities and temporary toilets and whatnot at a more regular basis. But, we did have some people that did get COVID during construction, whether they caught that during the construction port or whether it was at home, you never know. But we did not have, at least did you have any? We did not have a significant reduction in workforce that on the project, and we were able to manage through it successfully.
Did you have a lead times change and things like that?
Oh, well, yes, the markets, I think we were far enough in procurement of our air handlers and a lot of the major electrical equipment that our projects were not impacted greatly. There were some things just, like on some of our finishes. But the procurement at that point was already done before COVID hit. Now, since COVID, the lead times for equipment has increased. A lot of it has come back. Initially, roofing was awful for a long period of time. Precast construction,
Roof insulation
roof
was a nine.
insulation we could not get.
Lead time.
But that has come back to norm. But electric
Switchgear is still,
yeah.
switchgear is still a bit troublesome, but when you go in, and part of it is thinking outside the box, employee safety first and foremost. Mitch, we had hand washing stations, which were kind of not typical, mask mandate, all those things that, like Mitch said, the public was doing, but we were considered a critical project for the community, for city of Indianapolis and Marion County. So some of the mandates didn't, make it down as far, but we worked in shifts. We opened up separate areas to work and, worked with our subcontractors, getting communication out, working through plans. Some of I will say, the biggest hurdle on the jail, was the pre-manufactured cell. It did not come from, it was not a localized source. Obviously, you guys know that. And their plant, we were not in a contractual situation where we could not hold the mandate, of them working. So they had to work through smaller shifts and those sort of things. But when everybody started coming back to work, they were great to work with, to work overtime, get the production back on schedule. And we were able to, work through ordering. We didn't get everything at once when we needed to, but we were able to work through and finish portions while other portions were left open to the sky and or had openings in the walls and sort of things. So it's really about being creative and hitting the challenge head on.
And then my next question is, how do you ensure local participation in the bids or in the work?
Yeah, and I think that goes back to getting everyone aware of the project. The outreach event is going to be a big one. We want to advertise in local, papers or networks, advertise online. Well aware ahead of when those actually become available. Our goal is to reach out to that as well during the budgeting timeframe, so they do, get a little preview of the project, understand what it is, and have a better understanding when it does come out for bid. But I think advertising, I think it's outreach events, discussions, talking to them.
And one of the things we worked through on the jail, because certain packages are extremely large, this is going to have a $10+ million mechanical package. It's gonna have a $10+ million electrical package, those sort of things. So at least some of the smaller guys on the sidelines is encouraging with your larger local subs, some of those that Tyler mentioned earlier, and getting them to utilize their resources within the community to bring those people. And, several of our subcontractors were partnerships as well, like we've had our fire suppression, they broke out the sheriff's building for one of their partners, one of their smaller local firms. And then the larger firm took the jail, but it was still a single contract for the team to manage and execute, but it was made up of two different firms in the community. And so working through those sorts of scenarios and encouraging that, and you guys getting the voice out for that as well, from a local standpoint works really well. Wilhelm has as good a network of subcontractors in the area as anybody, so I think that we'll work tirelessly to make sure everybody's involved that we can.
And also just understanding the market right now. It's obviously, you want to go out to bid in that sweet spot where there's no other large projects where they can focus on it. So understanding what maybe Indiana University has coming out, maybe some other projects in the area, and kind of time that so that we can get the most participation on the project will certainly help.
You guys have any other? I have kind of maybe one more that's unique to you guys, and it may turn into two or three, is you've applied as a CMC, right? Any interest at all as a CMA?
Yeah, I'll take that. Yeah, the RFP was for CMA services. It listed some of the services you're looking for that kind of led it more on the pre-construction side. There was some construction phase aspects to it. But what we wanted to show you is our basically full menu of all the services that we can provide that goes all the way through a CMC type scenario. Our reasoning for that is basically if we are CMA, we cannot bid any of the packages. So Wilhelm and Taylor Brothers would be precluded from doing any of the self-perform work. We feel that we are in Indiana right now from at least a commercial construction standpoint. We're in a boom right now, and actually hasn't even kind of hit already, at least from a procurement standpoint, it's out. But there's some very large projects happening in Indiana right now. So to preclude, we are the largest trade contractor in the state of Indiana, and Taylor Brothers does a significant amount of work as well. So to eliminate us is a possibility of doing just to go back to your other point, is it would reduce your bid market by us not being able to self-perform those packages. But I did want to, but it's odd that the rules are that way, because then in a CMC scenario, we can bid those packages. And I want to be clear that that the CMC statute for the state of Indiana is that we will put these packages out for public bid. So we as Wilhelm, if we are pursuing a trade package, we are going to bid that directly against the competition and invite competition. We have no reservations of bidding that with competition, and we encourage that for our clients. So
how would you keep that? I mean, would you do that in like a closed bid package, or produced or sent to someone else?
Yeah.
I
can jump in there, and I forgot to mention that earlier, but Building Connected is a web-based program that we will use to send out our bid invites, and we can set it up where the bids can't be opened until 2 p.m. on a certain day. So what we could, if it's here or another building, we can all get together and open them package by package, and you can see the numbers as they are. You'll see how many are in there, but you can't tell what the numbers are until you open them.
So what Tyler just described is exactly what we're doing at Westville right now. We are doing an online version of submitting your bids through Building Connected. So that's one way to do it.
Mm-hmm.
The other is if you as a client prefer us to do it kind of the old school way, the old paper way, and have the bids turned in here in the courthouse and do a public opening at Westville as well.
Yep.
We do an online meeting. Westville is a very rural area. It is not easy to get to, or I mean, it's a 2.5 hour I mean, the closest town to get a hotel, I think is Valparaiso, so it's a half hour away. So to get to Westville to turn in bids and the technological challenges there, we went through online because it's easier for those companies to do that on that one. But for you, if you prefer that we do 3 paper copies,
Right.
bid bonds and turn it in that way and and do a public opening with you, we're open to that too. So like I said, we're not pinned down that this is the only way we will do it. We will do it as long as it meets the state criteria
Yep.
for public bidding. That's what is important.
And our bid is sealed and time stamped, so
Right.
you know what comes in, you know. I mean, it's,
On your fee schedule, you have a very simple schedule, which we like, but what other fees and things would there be in addition to or in lieu of, or?
Typically if we did the CMC method, we would have to provide a bond. So we would have a bond rate for the project, because that it would be you would have a performance and payment bond for us. So there would be a bond rate for that, typically an insurance rate too. And then also whether it's CMA or not, there's typically staffing rates that we would see. So we did not see that on there, but we would provide that to you. I'll offer it now. We will match since that wasn't offered in there, we will match exactly what we were doing up at Westville. That wasn't in a public scenario to match exactly what we're doing.
basically, if you've heard NR conditions and GRs, which are all spelled out, an open book, staff costs are included in that. That's what's not included in the fee schedule.
And then builder's risk insurance is another one, whether it's carried by us or by you all.
Right.
Depends on how that's handled.
So I think you wanted me to. Oh, yes. Yeah, on the public bidding processes, we are, the state statute is that the CMC cannot perform more than 20% of the value of their GMP. So even if Wilhelm were to bid, I would, I could think of multiple packages, and I know Taylor Brothers would look at like general trades, but we would probably definitely pursue, we could pursue earthwork, concrete, structural steel, general trades. Masonry, definitely. But if that total exceeds 20%, then we would throw out the bid that would be most financially beneficial to you. So we're not going to throw out the one that's going to have like a $1 million difference to the second place. It would be throw out the bid that gets maybe a $20,000 differential or something, so that we could get there. That is, of course, if we are the low bidder and we decide to pursue all of those activities. And then the other advantage of the CMC method is if the county takes on the aspect of being the contract holder to all these subcontracts, we have the resources from an accounting standpoint, from a legal standpoint, to manage all that in-house on ourselves, and that's part of our fee. I just want to make you aware of how much of a time situation you'll have with actually drafting and writing and executing subcontracts and change orders to multiple packages. Now, if you decide you only want to do 3 packages and it's more of a prime, you could do that, but you're not going to get the benefits of breaking it up, and it will probably be a more expensive.
Yeah, there's definitely savings generated by 30 to 50 subcontractors.
But also on the county's accounting side of things, of getting bills from 30 different people over every month, and we will review that as a CM agent, but to go through all of that, I just hope you understand the I don't want to say it would be the unintended consequence of picking CMA and then putting the county in that. Maybe you're prepared for it, and maybe you've done it before, but it is that was part of our reasoning of we want to provide you as much services, a CMA service at a CMA rate, basically because we think it's the best fit for what you needs, and then it also allows you to use all of Wilhelm's self-performed work capabilities as well.
You've given us this percentage. What would it change to if you did perform as a CMA instead of a CMC?
Well, Be the same. So as I said, we're prepared to go the full CMC services at the CMA rate, if that makes sense.
I think that truly answered the question. I don't think we've truly answered Jeff's question about, are we willing to?
I heard yes.
Okay.
Right. If it's not yes, then speak now, but I heard yes. That would have been a long conversation for a no.
The other aspect is, which I don't know if it was the way it was worded in our proposal, but let's say Wilhelm were to bid, so let's say it's a $100 million project, right? Where we can only subperform $20 million of, if Wilhelm Concrete gets a portion of that 20 million of the 20, we will waive the fee, the CM fee for the value of that contract. So we're not double markupping ourselves. So
It can be fairly substantial. I mean, it can be.
Which could be
substantial. Several $100,000.
savings to the project. So. So.
Yep.
I don't have any more questions. Do you guys?
I do. I have a couple of questions, actually. I think it was in the, construction portion of the proposal.
There was a section about float. Do you guys talk about that a little bit? I just wanted to understand.
It's just a word we use in scheduling. It's really it's not padding of the schedule, but it is kind of to make sure that any unforeseen issues, weather delays or COVID-19 or anything like that is accounted for and you guys still get your project on time.
Okay.
And we run our schedules on an early start. I don't know, but basically every activity in our schedule what is the earliest that activity can start based off the sequence. So for example, the slab on grade can't start until the foundations are complete. So we have our slab on grade starting exactly when the foundations are complete for that area. Now, it doesn't mean that the slab on grade has to start that way, that soon to affect the critical path. So the difference between it affecting the difference in days of when that slab on grade is poured and when it affects critical path is considered the float of the project, which means we don't have to start it right now. We can do it a week later and it doesn't impact the overall critical path of the project. So the overall map of the project, the critical path is what's the longest activity from when you start to complete and what those activities. So usually it's, site work, then foundation, structure, get enclosure, and then whatever the last finish activity is for the project. So that's typically your longest path to completion. We try to put in time in there also to accommodate weather and other factors. So COVID is not one that we put into the schedule, but we did finish the project 2 months early on the project, despite some of the challenges of COVID, and we're able to turn the project over to the city early.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, I think I understand.
Anything else?
Questions for us?
How are we on time? Do I have time for one more question?
You have as much time as you feel you need to
Now-
make an intelligent decision.
Okay, this is just me. The projects that you guys highlighted today, did any of those incorporate solar panels?
The Youth and Family Services project was supposed to have some solar panels on it, and then the city ended up deciding not to pursue that.
Okay.
So it was in the design, but it ultimately decided from a budget standpoint, they decided not to do it. But it wouldn't surprise me if the jail at Marion County at some point didn't consider putting those on that, because it is a large roof that's open that could accommodate.
Well, there looked like in the youth services, there was a canopy or something over the garage maybe.
That canopy on the photo.
Yeah.
It's on the Youth and Family Services, that it's really kind of the juvenile detention center, basically. I don't know if it's the new euphemism for juvenile detention, but that area of the sloped roof that kicks up is the translucent area roof that feeds the day room for the inmates. So,
Okay.
There's windows on the side and then there's a roof. But
It was considered multiple times on the jail project as well. But it's always what critical element or what element that isn't operational or critical that you can use the power for and those sort of things is always a consideration, but it was something that was considered, but not implemented.
All right, thank you.
I guess questions for you. Have we answered your question, any of your concerns about CMC versus CMA? I don't really want to leave the room before making sure we.
I don't
address
think,
that.
I don't think that we didn't understand the difference, right? Right? And I think you gave us some additional information that I think will be helpful. I don't know how it's gonna resolve, not a voting member, but if they said, hey, we want to look at that change, then we'll have to talk about whether this process would still satisfy that, right? And so I don't know if we'd have to do another round of things if we decided to make that change or not. So I'm not committing anything anywhere, but I certainly think that you gave us some information that we, or at least in the light that we hadn't thought about. So I think that's important. So I guess I think you've answered all my questions. I think we just need to have the conversation and try to figure out what route, if we want to change the direction we're going. I think that's probably the best way to phrase it. So I think I'm comfortable with that. I know that in our thing, we had a pretty aggressive schedule as far as making a decision. I don't think we're going to alter that schedule. I mean, but if we come to that schedule and we decide, we really do want to change paths, I think that deadline would still be the deadline we want to make that decision by. So if we have to reopen it up or anything like that, that's still the timeline I think we're going to strive for, because we really want to keep this thing moving and keep it going.
On the two projects that we had, whether it's Westville or the CJC projects, whether it's the jail or the courthouse. Both of those, I would say, both of those projects are delivered to the whether the city or the state with a CMA and a CMC. So on the Community Justice Center project, Shield Sexton and Shrewsbury served as it's kind of been rebranded as an owner's technical rep.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they are a CMA consultant. And then we worked on that particular project, we were a design builder, but it could have been, it's very similar to CMC type there. We were at risk on that and we worked with them. On Westville, the state has hired an OTR as well, but it's a CMA contract and professional services contract with the state. And then we, as Build Westville, as our joint venture name, is working as a CMC on that project. So we're willing to work in any scenario that you choose. But whether you hire CMA or OTR or decide not to, or as a CMA or CMC, we're comfortable with either. We're just excited for the opportunity to meet with you and discuss the project.
We really appreciate you guys coming down, and sorry it went over.
That's all right.
But I guess if you have any questions for us, you can always email Richard or myself. I think you have my email, and I think you'll have Richard's if you have any questions, I guess. Although I think we're probably not going to be very responsive until we've had our huddle and kind of came back with, hey, this is how we want to move forward.
Okay.
Discussions. If you have questions, feel free to reach out to us. We'll respond to answer any questions you might have.
Or if you like a tour of any of the facilities as well, we can show you what we've done. Be certainly an opportunity. We can make those arrangements.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.